Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Eva Montgomery on the podcast. She's coming to us all the way from Washington, where, she's got bipolar weather just like I do. So, it's not gonna be like the guest that I had on yesterday. One was from Costa Rica and the other was from Florida, where it's like they're complaining about, like 60 degrees, and you're like, oh yeah, you poor lost, you poor soul and stuff like that. I feel so bad for you. But yeah, she's an IFBB pro bodybuilder, which, if you couldn't tell that she's a bodybuilder, I don't know what to help you. Like, if someone came on, it's like, oh, she a bikini or figure competitor? It's like, you're halfway there. But, yeah, she's also a coach and personal trainer and just on to share her health and fitness journey with us. And most importantly, she is our current guest. Eva, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I got to ask, first of all, because I do ask this to every guest, and I'm not going to break the tradition. What is the weather like today in Seattle, or in Washington?
It's foggy. It's been really foggy for a couple days, about 30 degrees, which is warm
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, which it's like single digits here, and it's just those dog days of winter. But before I get into that, because I don't want to depress everyone, Ava, why don't you just start off by giving us your backstory and what inspired and motivated you to, get into the gym and eventually become a bodybuilder?
Well, my heart's always led me to health and fitness. Even when I was a little kid, I wanted to be active, and I did a lot of, bike riding and jump roping, and I would, be outside for hours learning a new jump rope trick or gymnastics, but the ghetto kind because we were too poor for gymnastics. So I taught myself things on the playground.
Like
So
parkour, basically.
kind of, yeah, yeah, like with the bars where you twirl around the bars and so always active. Always knew that I wanted to be part of something fitness related. And then I used to watch back in the day when they had bodybuilding on TV and saw the female bodybuilders on TV, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I want to look like. So that's always been in the forefront of my mind, and just kind of followed my heart. And no matter what I tried to do, it's always led me back to the gym and training and, wanting to learn more and train differently and learning new things all the time. So yeah, and I always knew I wanted to help people too. And I kind of uh, went in the aspect of more of a nursing style helping people, but I did a little bit of, um, you know, soul searching and decided that's not the route I wanted to go about it. So like more of the preventative medicine.
Well, and plus they're not going to find scrubs for you the way that you look right now anyway. So you're just saving the company, some money there too, because I don't know how they're going to fit. But when you were getting started in this sport, there's so many myths and misconceptions about it that the general public just seems to believe, or just because it's like I tell most people whenever I have bodybuilders on the show, most of the people that I talk to, that aren't on the show, they just say, "Oh yeah, those are the people that they just work out a lot and they go on stage and they pose." And it's like you got about 1% of the lifestyle down. You got like two of the basic like 50 things that go on in this lifestyle. But did you ever have any misconceptions or any reservations about the sport before you got into it, or was it one of those things where you just wanted to jump right in and see what happens?
Well, I learned early on not to listen to people's opinions and find out for myself. So that's what I did. I thought I might as well compete. That sounds like fun. And then I got hooked the first time I was on stage. So I was like, yeah, I want more.
I also love to talk genetics on this podcast too, because everyone's on social media and I hear this all the time. I want her abs, I want his arms, I want their back, and just want to strangle them because it's like you do not understand that if you work out just like someone and you eat just like them and you do everything just like them, you are not going to get the same results. Everyone unfortunately is just built differently. But whenever you first get started in the gym, everyone always has that one body part that first really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And they have that one body part that just drags behind it. They have to train to oblivion. What was one body part that really took off for you? And then what was one body part that you sort of had to drag behind?
Definitely my lower body. I've always been a lot stronger in my lower body. And, for a lot of years, I just kind of went with the motions and it just grew. And then started to really get some connection with my upper body, and and lifting really heavy with my upper body and getting a lot of results that way, and kind of surpassed my lower body with my upper body. So now I'm going back and having to uh bring up my lower body now.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, the moment that she said her upper body really took off, I was like, as she's struggling to even fit in the damn screen with her upper body, basically, that she's telling me. But no, I mean, I love to ask that too because so many people don't understand. Yeah, that it's everyone's body's built differently, and you get different results. But obviously, like, if anyone has followed you for any significant amount of time, like, you lift very, very heavy, which is rare for a lot of the bodybuilders that I have on because I mean, there's a big difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting, and a lot of people that aren't familiar with the sports don't understand that. But have you always sort of been more of the heavy lifter? Or is it just something that you've adapted as you've gotten more and more into bodybuilding?
Well, I've always known from a young age that I was strong, abnormally strong. So, I did a little bit of track too when I was a kid, and I was competitive. I realized I was competitive when I wanted to just be faster than all the boys, and I was. And so then kind of figured out that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm strong too. So then that kind of pushed me in the gym to want to be stronger than all the boys. And so, turns out I'm stronger than most of them. But, you know, uh, I mean, I guess that's kind of something, little funny thing about me. I just wanted to be, strong, and that I use that as my motivation.
Well, and she is. I mean, there's videos of her, like I said, where she's doing the max width you can do on some of these machines, and then she's just doing them for reps. And I'm just looking at it, I'm just like, okay, this is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, what? It just motivates me even more to get into the gym. But one of the things that isn't talked about as much as it should be is the nutrition of this sport because I mean there's so much into that aspect. I mean it makes up 80 to 90% of the results. I mean it's just abs are made in the kitchen. I mean you're not going to be able to put on weight and put on muscle if you don't eat a lot more, which is another thing that most people don't understand. You're going to be eating a lot more. But what were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you've made as you've progressed into the sport?
Oh gosh, and there's so many. I mean, so many because I remember at a very young age I was eating pretty crappy food, and yeah, you don't even think of it, and then until someone said to me, you're not going to be able to eat like that for very much longer, and I was like, what? What do you mean? So it didn't like really dawn on me later until I started to gain fat, and then realized, oh, okay, that's what they meant. So kind of being mindful of what I was eating and stuff, and you know uh I did struggle with a little bit of anorexia when I was a kid because my first introduction to a diet in the 80s was my mom wanted to fit into this little tiny pleated skirt, and so her diet consisted of like a cup of yogurt and a cup of pea soup, a couple times a day, but she fit into that skirt. So the starvation diet was my first introduction to dieting. So I had it all wrong, you know. So once I got into bodybuilding more and learning the nutrition, uh, that pretty much fixed that problem there. So
Yeah, it's just a lot of protein and a lot of food. Good God.
there's so much. I then turned into an overeating problem, you know. So then trying to scale back from that, but now I'm have been on a pretty good course for several years now.
I mean, because you're the one guest that I've had on out of all the females that I've had on that actually weighs more than me, and I'm 6'3" and I weigh 210 pounds. And in your off season, you're more than me, everyone. So I mean, this is the first guest I've had on where I'm like, oh my god, yeah, like she is a big guest that we have on. So yeah, that's insane. And do you find that it's easier now for you to sort of slim down for your show seasons as you've progressed in the sport, or has it gotten harder for you to slim down, or what's that been like, sort of? Because yeah, like just from your stories, I mean, you do put on a lot of weight in the off season.
Well, it's definitely different every time. I don't carry as much body fat as I ever used to, so I'm anticipating this time around for this season should be fairly easy to get into contest shape because I didn't put a whole lot of body fat on. I put more muscle on, but not as much fat as I have in the past. So I'm pretty lean for being 218 pounds. So
I agree with that, and I mean, this is just also so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport. Where I mean, the mental changes that you make in this sport are 100 times more important than the physical. And unfortunately, most of the general public, I mean, they'll only see the physical changes just because that's what they notice. But what has this journey been like for you mentally? Because I mean, just that mental side of things that you take from this, I mean, I think they just outlast and they're so much more valuable than any other physical change that you could ever have.
well, it's definitely something money can't buy, you know. It's all it's all worth it. I've learned so much. Um, I can't even describe it, honestly. And you have to be a little bit crazy to do what I do too, you know. It's definitely not for a weak-minded person, you know, and there's been times where I've battled depression too a little bit and pulled myself out of it. And definitely the gym has always been there for me, so it is my medicine, you know.
What were your friends and family's reaction like when you announced to them, "I want to be a bodybuilder"?
uh I told one of my friends and she laughed at me, but and she's like, "What? You're just a little woman." And I was like, "All right, well, let me show you." And here I am, and now everybody's, so proud of me and rooting for me, so it really feels good, and all the hard work does pay off, in the end. It's just about discipline, sticking with it.
Where do you think that discipline for you personally comes from? Because like you said, yeah, this is a somewhat crazy lifestyle where I mean you do have to have just that insane mindset, of really just getting into that gym and just getting your workouts done, getting your nutrition, getting your sleep, getting your cardio. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but where do you think that mindset comes from? Because I don't know. I almost swear like some people are either born with it or they just adapt it. But where do you think that just that mindset to be able to do this lifestyle comes from?
Well, it's a contract that I made with myself, you know, um, just being there for myself because in my past, not a lot of people were, so I thought, well, this is it. This is it for me. I can use this for helping other people as well as myself. And you know, it's done a lot for me.
How long into your career before you decide like, hey, I want to be a coach and a personal trainer and help out others?
I think it was, oh, geez. I've been training for a long time. I got my first gym membership when I was 13. And, I did a little bit of nursing, hospice, decided that, so I kind of switched directions a lot, because I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. And then it just seemed like the right fit. And then I started helping friends and family out, and, it went really well. And so that's what I pursued. And it's my passion, so yeah.
What is your favorite thing about being a personal trainer and a coach?
Oh, there's so many things. Just seeing people change their lives and them realizing that they are capable of so much more than they ever imagined. And it's contagious too because, people want to know what they're doing. They see the changes, they ask questions, then they want to do it too, family members, coworkers. And so, they're inspirations for people in their lives too. So it's just a chain reaction of goodness, healthy lifestyle.
Well, and with the personal training and the coaching, I mean, one myth and stereotype that I love to bust on this podcast every single time, it's gotten better the last 5 years since, basically from Instagram and other sources like that. But there's still so many, especially women, that have that fear that if they walk into the gym and they pick up one dumbbell, they're going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. And it's just like, first of all, I would spend my entire life savings to train with you then because you have found the secret that, everyone's looking for. But even if that never was your fear when you got started, how do you like to respond to that? Because I bet if you had a nickel for every time you heard that, I mean, you would be a very rich woman.
Oh, sure. I hear that all the time. I just want to tone up. I don't want to look like you. I just want to tone up, and my response is, don't worry, you
Well, your
won't,
response would be, if you do, then I'll hire you as my coach then.
right? Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And then I have, even guys say that too. But, it's just lack of knowledge. And I don't hold it against anybody. But
If that ever did even happen to you, then just don't work out then, and you'll lose it. You'll lose it all eventually. So it's just like I just don't. I mean, I get where that's coming from for some people, but it's just like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen to you? You're gonna get healthier. So yeah,
right.
that's the thing that I never really got myself. But I mean, the hardest thing for so many of these competitors that I would have never guessed in a million years before I started this podcast was posing. It's harder than your nutrition. It's harder than your working out. I mean, what has your experience with posing been like?
And just as important, you know, uh, I don't consider myself very good at posing because I really haven't had time to practice it. I mean, I do have time, but I got a lot going on. And when you're getting ready for a show, it's like, it's hard. But that's definitely something I'm going to focus way more on this season.
Out of your physique or out of your bodybuilding poses, what is your favorite pose and what is your least favorite pose?
My favorite pose is the lat spread, and my least favorite is probably uh, ab and thigh.
That's almost everyone that I've had on guesses least favorite, just because it's such an awkward pose and it's hard to make it look natural and just flowy, and
Yeah,
it's just ugh. Yeah, if only they
I
could
know it
figure out
can
a way
be
to do it.
done, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, there are a handful of people that I've seen do it, but yeah, it's yeah, it is really tricky. And I mean, when you walk up on that stage, what is that moment like for you? I mean, knowing that you've gone through so much in a prep that most people couldn't even dream of doing, and you're finally able to walk up on that stage and show off, all that hard work that you've worked months upon months on. What is that moment like for you?
I think it's different every time, you know, and at that point what you've done right and what you've done wrong in your season, and definitely it's always been posing for me. Didn't practice posing enough. Didn't practice, but so um, I mean, I don't know, a little nervous. I'm really shy, so it's kind of hard to get up there
And
and
yet you chose
oh my
bodybuilding.
gosh, but it's so much
Yeah.
fun. Being on stage, it's a whole nother level of, you know, it's just there's a high to it.
So was there a big difficulty with you even stepping on stage in the first time? Was it something that you really had to work on because of your shyness?
No, I don't know what happened. I just ended up on stage, and then the first time I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I want more of that.
And when you're on stage, does it time seem to slow down or seem to speed up, or is it sort of a mixture?
It's different every time. Yeah, I've had some where it seems like it's slow, and the last one I did was really fast. It felt like, but there was a gap in time where I was on stage prior to that, and so I was a little nervous because it had been so long.
What is your go-to post-show meal when you finally get off that stage?
Oh man, that's been different every time too. Like I've had preps where I've had dreams about food,
Well, first of
and
all, please don't tell me you're one of those people that like watches the Food Network while you're prepping too, and then just like makes himself drool. I don't get that.
well, I did do one prep like that where it was all food porn because, that's all you can do to get through the cardio and stuff that you're doing. So it's like you're in a whole different world. I mean, it was satisfying, almost as satisfying as eating it.
I understand that, but I mean, I still don't get why some people do it. It's like God, you're torturing yourself. But hey, if it helps you get through it, and I mean, I love to talk off season too as well because most people don't understand like that look that you present on stage. That's not going to be sustainable 24/7, unfortunately. And I mean, you are going to have to put on some weight, and you are going to have to and make adjustments in your off season. What was that like when you first realized that? And has it gotten easier for you to accept that you're going to have to make changes to your body as your career went on, and it's gotten a little bit easier for you to, mentally deal with post show blues?
Um, I still have a few hangups, you know, over it because yeah, who doesn't want to look shredded all year round, but it's just it's all mental, you just cover up and eat the food, do what you got to do, especially if you want to make improvements in the off season. I mean, that's more important to me than looking shredded all the time.
What is one area that you're looking on improving the most on this off season?
Quads and arms.
Arms? Are you kidding me? That's one thing that you think you got to improve on? Here, give us a front double bye. Let's see what you got going for. Jeez, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I've it's an optical illusion.
I
I have 17-inch biceps, but they don't look like that because my shoulders are bigger and my lats are bigger, so it makes them look smaller. Yeah,
Hey, again, this is all a sport of optical illusions too, as well. Because, like she said,
it
you have
is.
17 inches, and then they look on stage, and you might be like, "Oh, those don't seem that big," or something like
Look
that.
at
So then
those
you're just like,
tiny pea shooters.
"Yeah, yeah," basically, and it's like, "Oh yeah, well, yeah." So how do you deal with that stuff mentally though? Because it's like that's not something that you can just change overnight. I mean, that's something that you have to do, months upon months of working out for, and it's a sport. This is also a sport where you're just over analyzing a lot of things about yourself.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, on a daily basis. So I mean, you kind of have to coach yourself along the way not to think like that. Not to think negatively, only think positively. Just do the things it takes to get there and enjoy the ride. You just got to take it day by day. That's all you can do.
I couldn't agree more. And I love tattoos, and you have two tattoos that we're seeing right now. What are they, and what do they mean?
Well, this is a rose, and it's for my mom. She had a little tiny rose tattoo on her chest, and she told me, Eva, whatever you do, don't get a tattoo on your chest. And
Jeez.
so she passed away, and then I got a giant rose tattooed on my chest. And this one here says custom made.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, those are great. I know. Normally we don't have ones. Yeah, we don't. I've never had a rose on a chest before. So on the podcast, so we have something new. Every single episode for everyone out there. But I mean, as you're just being looking the way that you are, I mean, it's like you're not the average looking woman. And I know, like you said, you learn not to like care what other people think. But I mean, it's like if you're to walk out in public, I mean, you are sort of like a mini celebrity where it's like you draw people's attention. People are just like, oh wow, that's amazing, or they're just flabbergasted by because it's not something that they see all the time. Has it gotten easier for you to deal with that as your career's gone on, just sort of realizing that like, hey, I am going to draw people's attention?
Yeah, I've learned how to ignore it. There's positive and negative to it. But I mean, being a woman, it's not easy to deal with. So
Yeah, and I mean, fortunately, it seems like it has been getting better at least the last few years, just because the sports have been getting better and stuff. But it still is a thing that I've heard so many stories about that just makes me even appreciate the guests even more, just knowing that they go through that stuff too, along with the training and the dieting and everything that entails. But I mean, I gotta talk about cardio because I hate it more than life itself. It's the bane of my existence, and when I say cardio, I mean actual running. I don't mean like walking because I can do that for forever, but like, what is your relationship like with cardio? Because unfortunately, when you become a bodybuilder, you have to sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio.
so cardio for me, I you have to learn to love it. So I use it as meditation time, and it's actually turned into something I really enjoy. But I never run. That's a no-no for me.
That would be a sight to see. The 218-pound Ava just trying to run on a treadmill.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a rhinoceros
Yeah,
run?
exactly. Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's what it looks like.
Jeez. Well, and how tall are you at being at? Are you? Because I'm like 6'3" and I'm 210, but you weigh more than me. And so, how tall are you?
I'm 5'5".
Okay, so like first of all, that's amazing that I'm almost a foot taller than you and you still weigh more than me in your off season. But second of all, how do you find clothes that fit? Because first of all, they don't make clothes for female bodybuilders in general, but for bodybuilders that are just so big and so like not super tall, like is it do you just basically just have to wear workout clothes 24/7?
Oh yeah.
Yep, unfortunately. Going back into it, I mean, like sleep is one thing that is the most important thing. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, it's more important than anything else. Anyone that disagrees with me on that, go pull an all-nighter and then try to, get a workout in and tell me how that works out for you. What does your sleep schedule look like? Because I mean, for some
Oh,
bodybuilders, I mean, that is the hardest thing for them.
it's funny you asked that question because um, I don't get a whole lot of it. I'm working on that because I wake up at 2 a.m. and I start training clients at 4 a.m. and I go all day and then do my training and then I have to run errands or cook or whatever, but I try to get to bed at 7.
Do you just
It
have an
doesn't
IV?
always
Do you just
work.
have an IV bag of adrenaline hooked up to you 24/7? Then basically,
I wish. I wish. No. I
what do
don't
you?
even take pre-workout.
What?
No.
So you're just naturally one of those
Sometimes
people that can somewhat function on little sleep?
it's taken a lot of years of training, sleep training, work training, training, all the training. So, I mean, it wasn't easy at first, but eventually it got easier.
Which that's hard because like most of the gains that you make are when you sleep and stuff like that, just because the body's recovering if you're not getting enough. But still, hey, to see that you're as big as you are right now, it's like, geez, you must still be doing something right on that front. But I mean, yeah, sleep to me, that's as you can tell, I'm a hyper person, so I can't even take a nap. I mean, for me, a nap is just resting my eyes and trying to fall asleep, but it's never gonna happen with me. But I mean, this sport is so ever evolving. I mean, one year the look that the judges might want is always going to be replaced, usually the next year by a different look. How do you deal with that, knowing that like this is always an ever evolving criteria of what they want to look for in that final package?
Well, all I can really do is be myself, and if they like me, they like me. If they don't, then I guess they don't.
What has been the difference like in your during your career as to bodybuilding change? Because like if I had you on like 5 years from now, I mean, the physique competitors right now are basically bodybuilders, or the bodybuilders of right, or the physique competitors of now would basically be bodybuilders, and the figure competitors right now would be physique competitors. I mean, so much has changed even in like the last 5 to 10 years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody's getting bigger. I don't know what they're really looking for. Um, like you said, it's different every year. And, some of those girls need to cross over into bodybuilding or figure into physique. I guess it's just knowing when it's time. And that's their coach's job to let them know, you know. I remember one year, the coach I had at that time wanted me to do, I wanted to do bodybuilding, and she wanted me to also do figure. And
Bodybuilding and figure, not even physique.
yes, yes. Well, at that particular show, you couldn't
Oh,
do
okay.
physique and bodybuilding, so she wanted me to do figure. And I went back there to pump up for figure. She's like, just don't pump up. That's you just kind of stand there, don't really flex or anything. And I'm like, okay, well, so I went backstage to pump up, and the girls saw me and they were like freaking out. They're just pumping up really fast and stuff. And I got last place, of course, you know, but
Yeah. That I mean that would be a sight to see. You even right now trying to do a figure show, that would be a sight to see. I'd pay money to see that. But yeah, that's
it would be funny.
oh yeah, that would just I mean just yeah, and just how much everything's changed. And I mean hopefully your coach learned the hard way now of like, hey, let's not ever recommend her doing figure ever again, and just stick to bodybuilding. But I mean I'm a huge, like, probably the my favorite body part is traps and stuff, and you just have like they're basically just like they're just huge for you. Do you do anything for them, or are you one of those just genetic people that you were just born with them and then they just naturally develop to that?
Yeah, I never have.
Oh god, yeah. Just one of those blessed ones, I guess. Yeah, that's insane. Well, at least because the number one body part that I hear of all the time from women on the show that they're looking to grow the most is shoulders, and obviously, like your shoulders are huge too. What do you even do for shoulders then? Because that's just ridiculous. Because, like you said, you've gotten to the point where like your shoulders are making your arms look small.
Yeah, yeah, I need to dial it back a little bit. But there's something about lifting heavy weight.
Yep.
I just can't help it.
Do you ever train like certain body parts like more than once a week, or do you always just do the one a week thing for all your body parts?
Well, I usually split up my legs,
Yeah.
the front half and then back half, and then at least one compound movement, per portion or whatever. Um, and then yeah, the rest of them once a week and a day off. So I train 6 days a week.
Don't even get me started on calves. That's my number one pet peeve body part where I could inject pure muscle into my calves and they wouldn't even gain an ounce of muscle. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But what do you like to do on your rest day? Because for a lot of people that I talk to, like they have trouble finding stuff to do on their rest day because it feels like they're sort of like, trapped on some of those days. And do you find a lot of things to do, or are you one of those people where you just like have a hard time with it, or?
I always have stuff to do. It's always a list that backs up, so there's always something to do. And um, I'm usually doing plans for clients, check-ins, and things like that on that day. And I usually try not to get out of bed until noon. So that's my rest day consists of work.
Please tell me you do that after like a leg day or something like that too, because it's like I can't if I train my legs hard enough, I ain't getting out of bed till a certain time, and I'm gonna roll out of that bed.
That's the day before my leg day. So I get a nice good rest and eat really good and just hang out and um, make plans and then the next day's legs.
Absolutely, and I mean just with the amount of food that you consume to maintain this size. I mean, do you do anything to try to spice things up and mix it up? Like we've heard stories on here of people that like put mustard on their chicken, or they do other things to try to add a little bit of flavor. Have you done anything like that, or are you one of those people who just is able to just power through the food without mixing it up really that much?
Well, I mean, of course, those kinds of things help a little bit. I'm just kind of like a salt and pepper girl. Yeah, I think I've kind of trained myself to, love the food, and it's not really a problem for me. So,
It's the only problem about this sport though too is that like you're constantly just putting food in your mouth like all throughout the day, and it's just you have to keep it up. But hey, it's worth it in the end there. But I mean, what is your advice for someone who's just looking to get started in bodybuilding in and of itself? Just because there's so many people that walk into this sport without any proper knowledge, and that's one of the reasons why they don't last as long because they don't implement things, starting off. But just if for any one piece of advice that you could have for anyone who's just maybe walks up to you and says, like, hey, I'm looking to, just get started in bodybuilding and see what happens.
well, you got to find a good coach, someone that's, you know, been there, done that, look at their physique and look at their clients and, you know, someone that's not going to hurt you either. You got to, safety first, of course, in all aspects. But yeah, that's really important. But yeah, mentorship. You need to find a good mentor.
And obviously, like this last year in the sport, I mean, there's been a lot of change going on just because there's been like some deaths, and there's just I think for the general public, they've got a little bit more of an inside view of like how extreme this sport can be. Because yeah, it's an extreme lifestyle, it's an extreme sport. What has been your reaction like to sort of seeing some of the changes that have been happening and seeing some of the reaction that people have had? Because like I mean, obviously you know all about like all the stuff that goes on because you've been a bodybuilder, and what has your reaction been like, sort of just, sort of a lot more of this becoming mainstream and public, sort of after all these tragedies that have happened in the sport this last year?
Well, I guess the main thing is just making sure you're healthy in the first place. Because if you have any underlying conditions, that could probably, pose problems for any sort of, extreme anything. Um, but like do your research on the coach, and just because their clients are winning everything doesn't necessarily mean that's their best fit for you. Um, I don't know. It's kind of crazy because it's at least every prep I've had where I get down to about 4 weeks out, and I think to myself, "Am I going to make it through this?"
Yeah.
And I seriously question it because you
You just
feel
got to
like,
go and update the will, basically, just in case.
yeah, and then you're like, "Well, let's go, let's do it."
Hmm.
So, I mean, I guess it's all personal
Hmm.
too.
Yeah. No, and yeah, yeah, and like you said, like a lot of these cases too, where like have people had underlying medical conditions where it's just that's a lot of it too. But yeah, you just got to be aware of the coach and just all the stuff that it entails in this sport. And I mean, if someone were to walk up to you and say, if we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
I would like to see more support for these people. They put their life on the line for this sport. It would be nice if it was televised again. It would be nice. I mean, like, these people work as hard as, you know, NFL players
Yeah.
or NBA players, or, you know, it is a sport. And I think there should be a lot more support for these people that work this hard.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, they used to be on ESPN, and for some reason they got it down, and now we have cheerleading championships and cornhole championships on ESPN, which
Yeah. What is that? What is that?
cornhole.
You
I mean, it's
know?
like, come on, everyone. Like, let's be honest. That's yeah,
Right.
yeah. So
Right.
yeah,
I mean, it should at least be on ESPN. I mean, they have MMA.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I don't know what the deal is with bodybuilding, and why it's so frowned upon. If it's the steroid thing, everybody in every sport
Yeah, absolutely.
uses PEDs. So
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
I bet if you tested some of the curling teams, you'd even find some some on there.
Right.
But yeah, it's ridiculous. There's a huge double standard in that too. That's just yeah, it's ridiculous. But just with the sport too. I mean, yeah, I anything that I can do to help, and having guests on, and helping spread their messages, one of my favorite things to do. Just to yeah, if this gets even one more person, just interested in bodybuilding, it's more power to it. But as you get leaner and leaner for a show, at what point do you stop lifting so heavy? Or are you one of those people that like you're like a day out and you're still trying to max out?
No, because that's not very smart.
Well, yeah.
You know,
I've had some
you
not
just have
smart
to.
people. I've only asked that because I've had some not smart people on this podcast.
Oh, yeah. You really have to listen to your body. You don't want to. You want to still be able to return the next season, and without injuries. And so it's just plain out not smart to lift your max or try to, when you're really close. So,
Well, and now we get to the part where you just absolutely embarrass me. Could you go over some of your best lifts while I just, don't even look at you because I'm just too ashamed?
what do you mean?
So like what's like bench, deadlift, squat, just like the big 3, like what are your maxes for those?
Uh, I would say, you know, 315 was my max. Maybe once or twice 425 on squat. Uh, maybe 500 deadlift. I mean, those are 315 on bench.
Jesus.
I don't lift like that anymore. I don't do any squats anymore. I don't do any, real heavy deadlifts off the ground anymore. Um, just because I want to be around for a while,
Yeah.
and it's just not smart. But
And just, I mean, obviously that's just amazing, and it blows, a lot of my guests just completely out of the water, and it's not even fair. But like, just having that look, and sometimes, like, let's be honest, like body dysmorphia is like a real thing. How do you convince yourself that, like, because everyone has those times where they're like, "Oh, am I looking good today or not?" But it's like when you're that big, it's hard to convince yourself that you're not that you're not huge, basically. Like I've seen some people where they're just
Oh,
like, "Oh, am I huge or not?" I'm just like, "Just look in the mirror for God's sake."
oh, I feel small all the time. I definitely have a little bit of that body dysmorphia too. I think it goes hand in hand. How could you not?
Yeah. Oh well, because like yeah, because like you're one of the biggest guests I've ever had on, and it's like insane. And then yeah, for you to say that you have times where you feel like you're small, and it's like, oh my god, if you ever feel small, just message me on Instagram, and I'll tell you like you're an idiot. Just look in the damn mirror, basically, and just just do that. But yeah, I've just found that fascinating. Where it's just like yeah, and I know it comes with the sport and stuff like that, but that's just one of those mental things too. Where I'm just like, it just shocks me even to this day. Where like I could talk to Andrea Shaw and she'd say the same thing to me, and I'm just like, really? Like you have time? So yeah, I that's just for me that's one of the shocking things about the sport. But it goes along with a lot of things that happen in this sport. But I mean, Ava, it was just so great having you on. And when we do have you on a year from now, because I'd love to have you on in a year to give us an update on how it goes. Where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding? Where'd you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved when we talk to you a year from today?
Um, well, one of my biggest goals is to at least be on the Olympia stage. Um, I want to open a nonprofit for uh, domestic violence survivors, uh, and I'd like to do some acting. And I mean, I don't know. The possibilities are endless.
I'd like to see you acting too. Do you have anything in particular that you'd like to act in?
Um, Not right at this
I was gonna
second.
say Adam Sandler's known to have a couple of bodybuilders on some of his movies and stuff like that, so you could fit right
Yeah,
in there and stuff like that. But
yeah,
no, yeah, that's
that would be fun.
oh yeah, I've heard yeah, I've that's one of my goals too. Is I'd always love to get into some of the acting. That would be awesome as well. But again, and is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Um, my family, my kids, my best friend, my clients, um, they're all my biggest fans.
Well, and that's a well, again, I was gonna say this for the very end, and we're there right now. I mean, it's like being a mom too and being a bodybuilder and being a personal trainer. I mean, that's three jobs basically. What's your time management like to be able to get all, because like you said, I know you get up at like 2 in the morning and stuff like that, but how are you able to stay sane doing all three of those things? Because even doing two of those things I think would drive me personally crazy.
Yeah, well, I never said I was saying. Just
That's
kidding.
true.
My kids are older now.
Yeah.
My oldest is 25 and my youngest is 18, and they're doing their thing. So I don't really have to
What do they think
monitor
about having
them.
just a jacked as hell mom?
Oh, they love it.
Yeah.
They're my biggest
Yeah.
supporters.
Those poor kids
Yeah.
when they were like teenagers and stuff like that, dealing with oh your mom's jack stuff like that from all their friends and stuff. That's why whenever I have guests on that have kids in that age range, I was like, oh those poor things. But no, that's
Oh, I
awesome
know.
and so great that they're supportive on it because that just makes the journey so much easier for so many people and that's
Yeah, they don't have a choice.
well yeah when you have a mom that looks like that too, what are you gonna say no to her really and stuff like that? So hey there's
I'll do it
that
anyway.
that goes anyway, but yeah, again, Ava, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your
Thank
journey with
you.
us. It was an absolute delight to talk to you, and yeah, you can everyone. I'll leave a link to her Instagram. You can follow her on there and just all these other things. And again, your jaw will drop when you see some of her lifts that she does and some of the workouts that she does. But again, Ava, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Well, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.